Good morning, traders. Welcome to this live webinar with Elite Currency. My name is Chris Svorcik. Thank you for joining on this 6th of June, 2024. And we're going to take a look at the performance of May last month. What did our 7 systems so far that we are publicly trading here, what performance did we see with them? So very curious to show you and excited. And of course, we're going to take a look at some of the charts like euro dollar, Bitcoin, gold to see what's going on and what might be expected throughout this month and next month. All right. So let's take a look now first at an overview of the performance. You can see on the left the 7 systems and their names, and then in the middle the performance of May, and then on the right the total performance as of today. Okay, so a lot of numbers, and maybe so let's digest that slowly but surely. The best performing system in May was ECS Signals with plus 6.83%. Okay. Um, the second best was Zeus at the bottom there, plus 5, more than 5. Then Flagship, more than 4. Hermes, almost 4. Cronus, Hades, around 2. And Atheniae, only a 0.5%. The good news, of course, is that everything was in positive territory. So that's always nice. Slight minus for Hades is that there's a large open drawdown. And that, of course, is always a risk with these grid systems. We are fully honest about the disadvantage of those types of systems. That is why I put a minority of my capital on these types of systems, because there's always that risk that a floating drawdown could occur, and of course could end up in a loss as well. If you look at the total performance, the top 2, of course, if you've been seeing these webinars more regularly, have the best performance with Flagship, in my view, the number 1, Atheniae second, Cronus third, Hades fourth, and the bottom 3 have not really earned enough, in my view, to be interesting. Let me say it this way. Therefore, the gains would have to be a little bit higher, more consistent. We're still monitoring their performance. So, Flagship in the last 12 months alone has made, for me, 54%. And that's a great figure, especially considering the fact that the drawdown historically has been low. Typically, the worst losing month I've seen is about 3 to 4%. And the worst drawdown, if I remember correctly, I think was not more than 10%. 10%. So for Forex trading, that is quite low or very low. Of course, for other types of investing, 10% might still be considered a lot. But within the world, within the realm of trading, I think many would agree that 10% drawdown is low. That is often a bar used by funds, bigger funds that are managing bigger capital. Typically do not want to see a drawdown more than 10%. That's where their border is. That's where they're, if it's more than that, they stop. So I think that's a good measurement of understanding that it's an acceptable risk for many traders and bigger funds as well. So Flagship does meet that requirement. And if you offset that, or if you compare that to the gain of 54%, considering the risk, I think that's a very nice, so far historically, very nice ratio. And of course, that remains to be seen if that will continue like that, but it has been so for the last 4.5 years. And soon in November, we will be reaching our 5-year milestone, our 5-year anniversary. And that's in terms of live trading, I think also quite long compared to many of the systems out there. 5 years is a substantial track record in terms of Forex trading, at least. So that's Flagship. Atheniae has a higher total, but the length is longer of this total, so the average is lower. We'll take a look at each of the accounts later on. Cronus, pretty good, almost 61% in the last 12 months. So I like what I'm seeing here. Hades, not bad, but it's going through a drawdown. We'll show you the image. So we'll have to see how that drawdown plays out. And in the bottom three, the total, of course, lower than the others, the top four systems, the first four systems, but each have had good months. All three of them, specifically Zeus, has had back-to-back months with 5+%, more than 5% this month in May and April. So it could start to become interesting. Let's see if it can continue that streak throughout the second half of 2024. If it does, and if it reaches the 40 plus 50% zone, I myself would find it more interesting to allocate more capital to that system. So some cautious optimism there, but cautious when I would like to see more track record on that. All right, Flagship. I'm not trading that with a small account, as you can see. It's more than $500,000. So substantial capital on that, and I feel confident with that myself for my own. Everyone has to make that decision, how much capital they can afford to risk and lose potentially. Considering all of their assets, considering the financial, your cash flow, always talk to a financial advisor. If you're not sure, or even if you are sure, it's good to discuss that. But, you yourself probably know the best what kind of risk appetite you have, and that's my risk appetite that I feel comfortable with. And Flagship I myself am using multiple accounts. The system is traded on a wider set of accounts, okay? And I'm sharing some of those track records, not all, some. And as you can see here on the left upper corner, one account is up 150. The right lower corner is up 78%. The left upper image has had some slowdown the last weeks, but the right upper corner one doesn't, and it's still an uptrend. That said, the left one has a monthly average gain of almost 8.6%, whereas the right image has a monthly average gain of 2.5%. So, each has its pros and cons. Here are some more images. The left image is up 63% almost, but the drawdown is extremely small with only 2.48%. That's less than 2.5% drawdown. Okay, so the gain is less, but the drawdown is also very small. Right image is up 230, almost 235%, but it has been going flat for a couple of months. Still, good monthly gain of plus 5.8, only a drawdown of 10.3. But of course, last month's a bit slower. So each account will have its own specifics. Some have higher gains, some have lower drawdowns, some have average drawdowns. But if I look at the total weighted average of all my accounts, then the worst losing month was about 3 to 4%, and typically the drawdown is not more than 5. Very worst case, typically not more than 10%. Although, of course, the underlying numbers of each individual account can vary, and sometimes the drawdown for one particular account can be higher. Although, if I look at the total portfolio, then it kind of averages out, if that makes sense to you. All right, Athena EA. Steady as it goes. Of course, there's always that risk of a floating drawdown indicated by these yellow dips there. These were smaller drawdowns that were handled okay by the EA, but of course that's why withdrawing profits is always a wise idea to reduce that risk of grid trading in general. But 2.68% average monthly gain, drawdown of about 28.7%. So as you can see, of course, a little bit more risk involved here, but it stays below 30. So for some, that might be still acceptable. It depends on your risk appetite. Some traders might accept 10% drawdown. Others 20, others 30, others 40, others 50. I myself, I mean, I love 10%, of course. I understand that for some EAs, 30% is needed. I don't like if it's more than 30 typically. That's my own comfort zone, personally. Cronus EA, a drawdown of 12.7%, a gain of almost 61, average of 4% per month, steady as it goes as well. Hades, 44 percent, but a bit of a floating drawdown as you can see here, and that's why we're having that kind of warning that we have to see how this drawdown plays out. Okay, we've had that before, but it doesn't mean that it will handle itself okay. Let's see if it happens now again, if everything will turn out okay. Hermes is one of the 7. Now we're talking about the last 3 EAs, the least interesting ones. Hermes at 24, Zeus at 27, but making a comeback, as you can see here nicely. And the signal's a bit too choppy and rangy for me, but keeping an eye on that one as well. All right, that's all of the performance of May. This month, of course, will be the last month of the second quarter, and then we'll go into the third quarter, starting off with some summer months, of course. In July, things are not that slow, but August, of course, typically tends to be a little bit slower, at least on the charts, at least part of the month of August. So let's see how things go. And we go into the second half of that year. Now, with no longer ado, let's take a look at some of these charts. All right. I hope you see it now. Yes. Let's start with euro dollar. To me, in my humble view, my 2 cents here is that it looks like we're in a range. Price respected this here, respected the 78.6 fib. Here, it respected the 78.6 fib zone. So that's already twice. We have a lower high, we have a higher low. So it could be an A, B, C, D, E, and up we go. And therefore, this would be one leg of the correction. And then here would be another. The triangle would be a B. This up would be an A. This triangle would be, and up we go for C. But I think it's a little bit still more likely that this could be an A or 1, yes. But before we finish the triangle, I think it could be an A, B, C. With this being an A, up, and then a triangle with an A, B, C, D, E. For B, it's a bearish triangle. I move down for C, finishing the A, B, C with a triangle in B here, and then up again for wave 3 or C. So I think from that point of view, A, B, C, I move up to the 78, 88.6 fib around 110, 111, 110.25, 111. Then I move down back to 110.75. I move up again anywhere for E, then down to 102.50 or parity, and then up again towards the 120 area. That seems to me the most likely. Of course, if price were to break below the high of 111.45, that triangle idea is out of the window. If it's a bullish triangle, then this would be A, this would be B, this would be C. So D would be expected to stop as well around this area. So in both cases, price should, in my view, stop around this 110.25, 110.80. So if it breaks above 111.45, both triangle ideas are invalid. But if it's a bullish triangle, then price could stop anywhere and then break above the 111.45 for a move up to 117.50 and 120. Um, of course, a break below this bottom at 105.90 could not invalidate the entire triangle idea, but invalidate the current shape that I'm indicating. It might be some different type of triangle if it stays below this, if it stays above this particular bottom here at 104, 40, 104, 45. So how long could that take? Well, I mean, this took 13 weeks. This leg took 16 weeks. This leg is taking 7. If we put, depending on whether we put a triangle, if we think it's a bearish or bullish triangle, but if we put the lines like that, and we think that around 2/3 of these lines the triangle should finish, then that would already be quite soon. So that wouldn't make sense from a time perspective, looking at the angles at least. If we think that it's a bearish triangle, then we still we're still waiting for this particular high. Let's say it's somewhere around here. A, B, C, D, E. Bearish. So bullish triangle A, B, C, D, E should perhaps finish around the end of July. If it's a bearish triangle, it's just a rough estimate, right? Of course, I mean, but this is just my 2 cents. Then if it's a bearish triangle, it could be A, B, C, D, E. It seems to be more it's a little bit further down the line, maybe end of September. So let's see how that plays out. All right, US 30 double top at that round psychological level of around, of about 40,000 has made pretty sharp sell-offs after hitting 40,000, back to 37, back to 38,000. I don't see much reason for being bullish here. Maybe I'm too skeptical. I don't know. I see bearish engulfing twins. I see a psychological round level. That said, last month there was a wick, but the bulls stayed. I mean, they did push back. So a little bit hesitant. I don't see it. I'm not in favor of much of maybe both directions. I would just sit on the sidelines at this moment and wait for more information. I know that maybe sounds simple, but that's what I think, and I just don't have a particular favorite at this moment, and I don't see any particular interesting trade ideas at this point. But I'm curious how it will continue. Of course, I mean a break below this support trend line though could give some indication of maybe a bearish push, whereas of course a break above the double top could lead to a new a new uptrend. Those are some kind of lines in the sand, as they say, right? That could indicate some information. Of course, always with breakouts like that, be careful for false breakouts. What I do is look at lower time frames. I look for a clear momentum. I look for a corrective pattern and then a continuation break to avoid or try to avoid false breakouts. But yeah, these two lines seem important at this point. DAX making a bull flag, but here too, some divergence between these tops. We have to keep an eye on the tops and bottoms as well, in my view. Pound USD, yeah, seems to be oscillating back and forth here in a range around kind of an average price of the last 7 years, or in the middle at least of that of the chart. Let me say it this way. And A, B, C, CFD doesn't look like a triangle because I don't think the price has gone deep enough. Oh, here it has actually. Here it missed the 78, but it could still be some type of corrective form, of course. It is now approaching the previous tops, so it could be a resistance zone. It seems more likely that it could make a bounce if there is some price action, bearish bounce if there's some price action that could confirm such a turnaround. and a move lower to test the previous bottom, and this trend line seems likely at this point, I would say. In the long run, I think it could oscillate in a corrective form. To me, probably like the euro dollar, it seems more likely this is an A up ABC, or perhaps an ABC, bigger ABC up like this to test the previous top in here. So a move down, followed by a bounce at that trend line for a move up to the previous top, followed by a bounce back down at the previous top. So something like this, down, up, down at these levels seems the most likely at this point. Dollar yen, huge fall from 160 down to 151 or 152-ish. ABC up after that, correction. A lot of volatility, which provides opportunities, but not that. I mean, if you're on the right side, it provides opportunities, but also more difficult, more in a way more risky to trade. At this particular spot, seems more likely to me that it will be a retest of resistance here another time. There's not much space until that zone. Maybe if it were to make another pullback, not sure if it will do that though. Could stay in this range. Doesn't look that interesting to me. Bitcoin, there was a bull flag after this huge rally, of course, from all the way from, I don't know, what was it here, 24,000, even before that, down as low as 16,000, up to 70 something. Now close to that 71. Oh no, even as high as 73, 765. Now close to testing that high again. And let's take a look at how many months have passed. We have a fractal here because 2 months have not made a higher high. I'm a little bit skeptical if a break could happen here already. Let's take a look at the number of weeks. 12. It's a critical time, I guess. I think it will not yet, but it's close call. It'll be interesting to see how this week ends up. If it's a strong candle this week, it could happen in June. But in my view, at least, if it's a weak candle, I think it indicates or this or next week. If it's a medium candle, let's see how next week plays out. If it's a weak candle, I think that could already indicate a weakness that could indicate a move down to the 38.25. If it's a strong candle, it could indicate a breakout. If it's a medium candle, if it's a questionable candle, then I would postpone that kind of decision to next week's weekly candle. I do think that the weekly candle is going to give us some insight about this month and if there's a breakout possible or if there's going to be a bigger retracement. So I think it's an interesting spot because we are breaking the bull flag, but is it a good breakout or is it a false breakout? I think that's something that the weekly candle could help us this or next week. If we look at the daily candle, the daily chart, excuse me, that looks more positive. I mean, we had a break followed by a correction, and it looks like it's trying to push, but we didn't have the break above the main top here yet. So still in waiting mode. If we can break above that, I would say the bullish breakout is starting to look a little bit better. Now, of course, we do have to worry and be careful of divergence. As soon as we break that top, there might be divergence. So it depends a little bit on the momentum as price is breaking through, because we might also have divergence here on a higher time frame. So a little bit tricky. Maybe I'm too careful after all these years. I don't know, but yeah, that's my 2 cents at this moment on Bitcoin. Curious to see this week. Gold's reaching almost 2,500, 2,431, has been going sideways for a couple of weeks. Some wicks on top of the monthly candle. Of course, obviously an uptrend. That's without any doubt. Anyone can see that, of course, here. Everyone can see that. But I think that yeah, it seems maybe a little bit short this consolidation zone. Difficult to say. I think that let's put the fib from here to here. It seems like a moment where a shallow correction could take place, which is typical for wave 4. But waves 4 are typically a little bit, lengthy in time. So I wouldn't be surprised if it goes sideways for a while and then breaks to the upside. That would be my best analysis at this point. All right, folks, that's it for today. Thank you for joining us or seeing the recording, of course, perhaps on YouTube, for instance. And we'll be back at the beginning of next month in somewhere beginning of July, first week of July, where we take a look at the performance of June of this month again and the entire second quarter of 2024. I wish everyone great trading and also great summer ahead for those in the Northern Hemisphere, at least. And see you soon. Cheers. Bye-bye.